Here I just wanted to walk through one of the midterm options in W-231, which is a business proposal. When you look at the business proposal itself, it's more often kind of a larger business plan that would include perhaps a cover letter as well as an executive summary, a market analysis, marketing plan, and a financial plan. But I'm just asking you to assemble a couple of those elements for the assignment itself. So there are 4 pieces that you need to put together for your proposal if you choose this option. One is a cover page, and then an executive summary that you practiced last week, and then a business analysis, which kind of resembles the feasibility study you did within the groups, and then a references page for any references that you consult in the building of the proposal itself. The 2 pieces that are a part of the proposal, first is the executive summary. Again, just to remind you of a few things about that. The purpose above all things with the executive summary is to catch the reader's interest and to set context for the venture. This may be the only thing that a reader might look at or a potential investor might look at, the executive summary. So you want to catch that reader's interest. You want to take a very confident tone to persuade the reader. You don't want to trumpet your idea too much, but you want to show your confidence through the development of some clear ideas that are supported by underlying data, if you can, versus simply retelling your idea. Here you want to offer a kind of basic sketch of the opportunity, and within that sketch you want to definitely define a sense of return on investment for potential investors. How much do they stand to make off of your idea? What's unique about your venture or plan? And one thing that I think is always helpful within the executive summary is to give potential investors a sense of when your venture will become profitable. Where's the break-even point where you start to recoup the initial outlay of capital? For the basic organization here, for the executive summary, remember that you want to do this within one single spaced page maximum. I think in terms of 3 or 4 paragraphs for the organization of the executive summary. First, a really concise 1-paragraph description of the proposed venture idea. Then 2 paragraphs that set up, what is it about the venture idea that is most compelling in the present moment. You can define here. You can think about how the operation will be set up, or what is it that makes it profitable, or how have you thought about potential economic or financial complications for the idea. If you're writing to an external audience or potential investors, you want to highlight those things that are going to make the venture profitable. If you're writing to an internal audience, you might want to think about what benefits will be possible because of your idea, or how will it change the culture or the operations within your organization or office to make them more streamlined or profitable in the end. And then I would say a 4th closing paragraph that defines the profitability again, or the benefits, the savings of the venture or the idea. Again, if you can define a break-even point, how soon will your venture become profitable? When will it recoup its initial outlay and expenses? With the executive summary in place, you want to move on to your analysis. It's somewhat like the feasibility study that you did in the groups earlier in the course. So you want to think about the present situation and context for your idea. Some kinds of things that you want to think about within the analysis are what's new in the project, how does it link to your organization's philosophy or mission if you're writing to an internal audience. If you're writing to an external audience or potential investors, you want to define the project's financial or economic feasibility within define parameters or aspects of the venture. What about your idea makes it economically feasible for investors, versus putting their money someplace else? And also within the analysis, you want to explore potential complications there. These in a composition paper or an essay, you might think about the idea of counter arguments here. So show your potential investors or your internal audience that you've considered possible complications or roadblocks or challenges or problems in the execution of your venture or idea. Some points of definition here that you can kind of examine within the analysis are things like, how does your venture fit within the larger economic climate? So in the national or regional or city economy, how does your idea fit into the present moment economically? What potential uncertainties are there that might disrupt or that might cause challenges for your venture? So show that you've taken on those possible challenges or uncertainties within your analysis. If you're writing to an internal audience, you might think about how the venture fits within the organization's current situation or current philosophy. How does it offer an entry point for your company? Who are your likely competitors here? If you're thinking about a business, in the immediate region, who else is doing the kinds of things that you're doing? What internal changes might be necessary if you're writing to an internal audience? What is your organization's competitive advantages and disadvantages? We'll talk more about that in a second. Also begin to perhaps think about the costs and liabilities that are going to be most significant to the venture. So, your location or site, how important will that be in terms of it being a cost? Do you have any particular maintenance concerns or liability concerns in terms of insurance? Think about the hiring pool here. Do you have a ready stock of available workers? Will you need to train a manager or managers in the venture as an important part of getting it off the ground? You can think about the timeliness of the project here. What kind of realistic goals do you have financially, and when will you kind of measure the organization's progress and development? Milestones here. Are there any local partners who might potentially also be involved in a project or a venture like this? And you can also think here a little bit about marketing ideas for the new venture or business. How will you advertise that? How will you advertise that venture? When you think about the ideas of marketing here, the kinds of things you might consider are, how would a new direction in an existing company's work? How would you market this new direction? With an internal project, you think about how are you going to present this idea to your current employees and the changes they'll have to make, perhaps. You can think about the idea of your customer base. Who's most likely going to utilize your service with the new venture or idea. If you're thinking about an internal audience here, think about internal communications. The groups that are going to be most impacted or affected, and how you're going to communicate with them those changes. You can also think about specific routes of promotion or advertising here internally. With whom do you need to communicate to get the new idea off the ground? And then perhaps also think about milestones again, or points of measurement in how the new idea is having an impact or effect, either as a new venture or within an existing company. One of the ways in which you can develop your analysis is what's called SWOT analysis. Businesses will often do this with new ventures, and they'll look at 4 aspects of a new venture. Their present strengths, their present weaknesses, their potential opportunities, and their potential threats that are there. So they'll measure the strengths. What advantages do they have in moving into a new field or developing a new venture? What are their current acknowledged weaknesses? What are their disadvantages in taking on a new venture or moving into a new field? Does the new venture offer opportunities externally for new revenues or potential benefits? And then, how do they measure potential threats to their new venture's profitability? Are there hindrances or challenges or particular competitors that are out there that will impact the financial viability of a new venture? One other point of recommendation in terms of the proposal too is that I would recommend that you write the analysis first, as we did in class with the groups, and then write your executive summary. Get a sense of the basic dimensions that make the potential business or venture or idea most viable or most financially profitable, and then go back and write the executive summary. I think it makes it easier to summarize the most important things if you've already kind of done the research and weighed those out first. So start with the analysis, then write the executive summary, and work from there. Thanks.